Hello, this may be my last video for this academic year, and after which you all will go into your exams, and then you'll start off with your vacations. So, being my last video today, I want to talk about brain rewards. What rewards the brain? How does the brain feel rewarded, and what do we do about this reward that the brain receives, and how does the body respond to it? Think of a time when you eat your favorite food or play a um, good game of ball, or whatever game you like, or you laugh a lot with friends, or you meet up with friends after a long time and sit and chat and spend time together. Do you notice that even after friends have gone and you're on your own, or even after you've laughed and everybody's dispersed, or after the game when you come back home, how do you feel? You still feel that happiness lingering, right? Happiness doesn't get over there. You feel happy and you feel satisfied, and you feel, it's a very nice sense of, wow, that was so nice kind of a feeling, right? And this mood remains for some time, and we feel enthusiastic about other things as well. Suppose you've been putting something off for some time, and you look at it, oh, I can do this. Or if mommy says, okay, go get this, if another time you're, oh, I'm busy, and then okay, I'll do it. You take more things more easily and smoothly. You start looking at things positively. And when we sometimes feel very low, you feel that you want to do this. When you feel, oh, I wish we could meet again, or I wish I could go out and play, or I wish I could laugh the way we laughed, that it was so much fun. You sort of want to have that feeling again. So what really happens? What really happens when such a beautiful feeling comes over us when we do something that's really beautiful? Our brain releases a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Okay, and it's an attempt for the brain to tell the body that, okay, you're rewarded, something beautiful has happened. You eat something that's really beautiful, or even when you eat when you're very hungry, or even when you drink water when you're thirsty. It's also an evolutionary mechanism by which the body does some things, or should we say nature makes us do some things. Otherwise we would never know that if we are thirsty we should be drinking water, and over a period of time we realize that when we are thirsty, we drink water, our thirst will be quenched, and we'll feel nice about it. And that's what pushes us towards doing things. These are life sustaining things, and therefore our brain feels rewarded, and dopamine is a neurotransmitter that rewards us. So whenever dopamine is released in the brain, we feel a sense of reward, and we feel that, okay, this is a lovely thing to do, and I would like to do this again, so that it gives me a lovely feeling. This feeling of feeling lovely or beautiful or nice is a sense of satisfaction, a satiety, or a sense of fulfillment. Like you have your favorite food and your stomach is full, or even when you go for a wedding and you have a lot of food, and at the end of it, I feel such a sense of satiety. I'm not craving for anything now. I would like to relax for some time, and I'm feeling very nice. Okay, so this is a sense of satiety, a sense of fulfillment. Understand the sense of fulfillment. Quite a few scientists have been studying this, what the dopamine release does to our body. And two of the scientists I'd like to talk about here, Olds and Milner. These people did some interesting studies with rats to see how dopamine release of dopamine in the brain affects the body and your activity and whatever you function, however you're doing, whatever you're doing. How does release of dopamine affect or change how you look at things? And for that, they used a box called a Skinner's box. Now, Skinner created this box. He designed this box to study conditioning, and he used rats for doing this. So eventually, it came to be called as a Skinner's box. And he never wanted it to be called a Skinner box. He wanted it to be called as a conditioning box. Okay. So in this, how his initial experiments, what he did with these initial experiments was that when you put a rat inside, and rat would just run around here and there in the box, and when they accidentally press the lever, see where the lever is, when they accidentally press the lever, food would come into the tray below it. See the dispenser below it? So when food comes into the dispenser, the rat would eat the food and feel happy. Okay, so over a period of time, the rat learns that if I press this lever, initially it would happen by chance, but eventually it learns that if I press this lever, food would come and I can eat the food. So I feel good. I feel happy. So this was Skinner's box, and this is how he designed it. There are also several experiments done with the light coming on and some kind of tone being, given out from the speaker. Pavlov's experiment, how he related meat with a bell and stuff like that. So a lot of experiments were done. Basically, this is what it is. So you press the lever and food is kept available. So when you press a lever, something would happen. Initially, they also extended these experiments to show, there was a big tube which not directly into the dispenser, but there was a big tube where you press the lever and the door would open, and initially they would explore how the door would open and go somewhere a little far away, and then there would be food. A lot of experiments have been done in conditioning. Okay. So what Olds and Milner, the two scientists, did was that they identified that part of the brain which responds positively to dopamine. So what they did was they gave electrical signals to various parts of the brain. Brain. We won't go into those details. So there is a specific part of the brain which you can trigger or give an electrical impulse, and this brain releases dopamine. So they identified which part it is, and then they used these rats into which they had identified and implanted electrical signal, creating what should you say, electrodes into the brain, and such rats were used in the Skinner's box. So what they did was these rats in which these electrodes were implanted, they were kept in the Skinner's box, and they would give small electrical impulses, and the rat would release dopamine. So this was the system that was constructed, and these rats were then placed in the Skinner's box. So what these two scientists did is that whenever the rat pressed the lever, they would give an electrical impulse. And the electrical impulse would make the brain of the rat release dopamine, and the rat feels good. So each time the rat pressed the lever, uh, it would give the lever was connected such that the pressing of the lever would complete the circuit, and there would be an electrical impulse in the rat, and therefore the rat would get a sense of satiety, would get a sense of dopamine release in the neurotransmitter, sorry, dopamine release in its brain. And um, when it felt that it wanted more dopamine, it would press the lever again. So the rats would press the lever as and when they felt that they wanted to um, get dopamine and feel good. And they counted the number of times the rats were pressing the lever so as to get dopamine released into their brains. So different rats had different times. Some of them pressed some number of times, some of them pressed more, so as to get a feeling. Each changed for each rat. And there was one rat who pressed the lever 7,500 times in a period of 12 hours to get this electrical signal. Imagine, in 12 hours that rat pressed 7,500 times. And they also showed some experiments, following this, and as an extrapolation of this, they also showed that several rats survived only on these electrical signals, that is the dopamine release in the brain, and many of them ate just the minimum, just the minimum for them to sustain, and just the minimum for them to be able to live and survive and do their essential activities. Many of them would eat just what is needed and come back. Some of them had just bare minimum, and they survived the rest of the time on the feel good, only by the electrical signals, even in the absence of food. Okay, so with these experiments, they showed that dopamine can actually make you do things which may be life threatening or really not functioning in your benefit, because dopamine release, while it is released and it's a natural system for you to feel good so as to do your essential things, like even relieving yourself, going to the restroom and relieving, you feel good. And if you're really holding it for a long time, you can't think positively, you can't look forward to doing things, you'll somehow wonder, how can I relieve myself, right? So they showed that when dopamine is uh, released in the brain, you may actually even forego things that are absolutely essential for the normal survival of the individual. Pressing 7,500 times in 12 hours is crazy, right? That's definitely dopamine addiction. I really wonder how that brat would have survived, and each brat had its own way of getting the dopamine release, but differing its time whenever it wanted to press the lever and get the dopamine release. So definitely that was a dopamine addiction. Furthering this experiment, what the scientists did was, instead of the electrical impulse that uh, makes the brain release neurotransmitter dopamine, they uh, adjusted the system such that every time you press the lever, instead of dopamine being released, there was another chemical that was released which would block the effect of dopamine. Okay, so they replaced dopamine with another chemical that would block the effect of dopamine, and they had a very surprising result. The rats completely stopped pressing the liver, because if there is no dopamine release, and in fact if you have something which is blocking the release of dopamine, even what is there would not allow you to get the feeling of sensation of satiety or satisfaction or feeling good thing. Instead you would feel low, and with that the rats completely stopped pressing the lever at all. And something, this high feeling that we get when dopamine is released, the same high feeling when we eat good food or have a good laughter or play a good game or be with friends who really care for you, and you feel wanted and protected, and all that same feeling we also get with some kind of addictive substances like drugs or even alcohol, that makes us go for it more and more and more, and or even other things that might be catering to addiction, that we might be craving for more and more. So it's not just for the things that are required for us to live our life normally and intake whatever is essential for our life, but also some addictive substances can give a same sense of high or feeling good when dopamine is released. And the difference with this addictive substances or whatever is there that we are craving for, the difference between that and our normal life routine, whatever we eat like with friends or playing a game or whatever, is that each time we need more of that to get the same amount of happiness, like the rat who pressed 7,500 times. So one time what he got, the rat, he or she, I don't know, would not have been satisfied. Therefore, it wanted more of it, more and more and more. So each time, this is what we call a threshold. To get the same amount of happiness, each time you would want to get more. You would want to have more of the same substance to get the same amount of happiness. Suppose 1 hour of playing with friends or 1 hour of whatever gave you happiness. Next time, of course, not playing. I'm talking about some addictive substance, say gaming, for example. So if you play 1 hour and you're really, I had a good game. Next time, 1 hour is not enough. You might have to do 1.5, and then it keeps on increasing. Right? That's a problem with this dopamine when it comes from things that are not a normal part of our release from the body. So, what kind of activities do you have in your life that makes you feel good? Make a list of it. You can include food and water and pizza, whatever, whatever you feel like. What all things are there in your life that promotes the release of dopamine and makes us feel good? Make a list. Let's see. I mean, it will be quite revealing if you look at it. It will be quite revealing for you also. You may want to include things like gaming. I used to play 1 hour initially. Now I play 4 hours. Or chatting. I really never realized when the time is going off. I thought it's only 10 minutes. Or playing video games, or even watching videos, YouTube videos, or some specific kind of videos that you might follow and really wait for it to next season to be released or whatever. Or even chocolate sometimes. Huh? I had a chocolate addiction when I was younger. Now, if you see this as a pattern that you've been following for all these months or days or year, it's almost 2 years, right, since the pandemic started and we've been at home. If you see it as a pattern, oh, I've been playing this initially, I used to play only so much, and now I play so much more initially to chat, whatever it is. If you see it as a pattern, that you have the time you're spending And it is at the cost of things, important things that are there in your life to do, like your homework or interacting with parents or even going out and playing with friends. If you're doing something indoor and you feel that, okay, this is happening because the dopamine is released, I'm stuck to it. If that's happening, think of the rat who pressed the lever 7,500 times. Imagine that rat would not have done anything at all. Mm, during the day, except then pressing the lever and feeling good, and pressing the lever and feeling good, and just be there more like a vegetable. So if you see it as a pattern, it's a good time to think of that rat, that crazy rat, right? So children, this video came to you right now at this moment, when the schools are getting over, you have exam and then you have vacation. You have 2 months of vacation and you'll have a lot of time in hand, right? So would you want to do things which are more constructive, more things outdoors as much as possible, be with nature, or would we want to get our dopamine and just stay with what we are doing instead of exploring? Because this is a time when a neural network is forming, and the more exposure you have to various things around you, the more relevant you will be as a part of the society. Okay, so chalo, bye and take care.